Hello, and thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Eileen Smith, and if this is your first time here, please subscribe and keep up with all of the tutorials here. Now, typically, I'm always talking about starting a podcast and how you should get your content together and all of that. But today we're doing something different because we're talking about why you should listen to a podcast. I got inspired from James Critlin over at Pod News. He was being interviewed on the New Media Show with Todd Cochran and Rob Greenlee, and he was talking about something that we rarely do. We rarely actually talk to people about why it's important for them to subscribe to a podcast. So today I'm going to cover that topic. So I have a few things that I've gathered that tell you why I listen to podcasts. I am a big consumer of podcasts. I subscribe to several of them. So let me just start with my list. And you leave me comments and let me know why you listen to your favorite podcast. Well, first of all, you can listen on the go, right? We all know that this is one of the reasons why podcasts are being more and more popular these days is because we can consume them from our phones. It's so much easier to do them when podcasts originally came on the scene and before Apple introduced the iPods and the iPhones, okay? Podcasting came before the iPod, but once the iPod got introduced, it got a little bit easier. And now with iPhones and all the other smartphones that are available, we can listen on the go. We can connect it with our car and use Bluetooth and listen to our podcast. It's a great way to brush up on the topic you're interested in. A lot of the topics that are covered on podcasts may not be covered in the mainstream media. You may not be able to find out about it watching TV or on the news or even through magazines or even some of the blogs that are out here don't cover the same topics that are being covered on podcasts. Next is that it's uncensored media. So because it's not being controlled by the big media power brokers, pretty much the podcaster has creative license to provide that kind of content that you may be interested in and not necessarily something that you're going to hear that may have mass appeal to an audience. And so it's more niche specific or niche specific, whichever one you prefer. Now, you also get that opportunity to connect with the host and the co-host or whoever else is being interviewed on the podcast. You have this medium that you have, such a strong connection because of the power of voice. And so you're able to listen to those voices and have them right in your earbuds if you're listening from your phone. So even when you're traveling in the car, it's easier because of that Bluetooth connection. So that means you don't have to listen to the radio. So terrestrial radio, some of us have gotten tired of all of the advertisements that we hear. We listen to a typical radio show and you may have 15 minutes of content and 30 minutes of ads. The ratio might not be that bad, but you get what I'm saying, that you're listening to these ads and they're very generic. Now, most podcasts don't have a lot of ads on them. However, some podcasters have monetized their podcast through sponsorships and through advertising. However, it tends to be more specific. So if you are going to have to listen to an ad or a sponsor read, more than likely, the podcaster has taken the time to make sure that advertisement is targeted to their target audience. And so it's very specific, and it's more than likely something that you'll be interested in learning about. Also, there's the entertainment value of listening to podcasts. Most of the time, hosts have different segments, and they, reach out to their audience to find out what kinds of segments are popular with. Maybe they're doing an interview show, or maybe they do a tip of the day or a tip of the week, depending upon how often and how frequently they put out their content. And also, you get the opportunity to expand your mindset and the way that you think, because the topics that are covered are usually things that are outside of the mainstream. So those are my reasons for enjoying listening to podcasts. And I do want to give a shout out to some folks that are here this morning. And we have our friend Tish Rosales. Hey Tish, good morning. How are you? And also we have Caleb Templeman from Vlogs and Tech. And so, there's an example when you want to learn about vlogging. Is there a TV show for you to learn about vlogging? Probably not. Is there a radio show where you can learn about vlogging? Probably not. So Tish says, we got a hashtag here. Tish is my hashtagologist. So she says, podcast run the world. That's right. And it's getting to be a more popular media. So let me really quickly just go to the screen share, because I do want to share with you some ways that you can easily listen to podcasts. Now, this first app that I'm going to show you is an iPhone app, but there's also lots of Android apps as well. But this one I want to show you is it's called Overcast. And here, my daughter, she has a podcast. So you see the first one there is Better Than Success. So if you're someone who is interested in entrepreneurship, and also you have a business, or you're interested in real estate, and especially if you're in the Philadelphia area, you would enjoy this podcast, because she's talking about the Philadelphia Real Estate Week. She's talking about building media companies, managing multiple large scale businesses, overcoming this one person she had on for an interview was talking about overcoming a brain tumor. So there is so much that you can learn. And I also want to say hi to my friend Beauty Bubble. She made it. Thank you, Beauty, for coming. This is going to be a quick live stream. Listening to the Twitch replay, believing is going to be all morning, Eileen, for me. Yes, I was on Twitch live earlier today. And this is, to be honest, and full disclosure, this is actually a do-over from my live stream here on YouTube yesterday, because I realized at first there was some little technical difficulties, and I just wanted to make it better for you, because I want to encourage you, if you've never listened to a podcast, think about subscribing to podcasts. And let's just go and check out another app that you can use. And I want to show you this app because of the fact that you can get this one on Android as well. And this one is called Castbox. And we're just on the homepage of Castbox. And you see that if you have an interest in true crime, there's personal development, there's a graduation playlist. How cool is that, right? And you see some of the top shows there. And then there's recommendations for you. And some of these are based on some of the folks that I also am connected with on Twitter and what they're subscribing to. And here's, for example, here's the YouTubers podcast. Talk about not being into mainstream media. So this is why I think it's important for us to expand our horizons, not just listen to the stuff that's on primetime TV. And, like I said, the convenience of listening to podcasts is one of the reasons why people are so enamored with them. You can do all of your multitasking. You can be at the gym or in the treadmill, right? You can do your house cleaning. You can be on your daily commute. This is one of the reasons why I consume so many podcasts. On my daily commute, I'm usually in the car by myself. Every now and then I carpool, but 90% of the time I'm riding by myself, and I don't want to listen to terrestrial radio simply because the commercials drive me nuts, and most of the programming was driving me a little batty, and I just did not want to hear it. So those are my reasons for wanting to listen to podcasts. Please leave a comment on this video and let me know why you listen to podcasts. I think it's so important not just to know the reasons or to show you, and I have plenty of playlists here to show you how to get started with podcasts. There's easy ways that you can start your own podcast, but I think it's extremely important for us to talk about why podcasting. So many different medias out there. And so I think I've laid out for you some of the reasons, but I know that there's a lot more. So I would love to hear from you. Please leave me a comment and let me know why you like listening to podcasts. And there's one more thing I do want to show you back on the Overcast app, and I'll show you why I think it's one that you'll really like if you are on iPhone. Okay? So before I go, I want to do that. So like I said, I was listening to my daughter's podcast. Okay? And let's see, there's a setting in here where we can go. Let's see where the settings are. Daily playlist. All right, let's look at a different one. Good morning, Mr. Snow. And right off the top of my head, I can't find it, but there is a way that you can go in here and scroll through, and you can see all these show notes. This is a wonderful way to get the show notes. Good morning, Mr. Rodney. Always nice to have some early morning hugs before you go to work. Thank you so much for that. And I'll show you this. You can do the fast forwarding of the episode that you're listening to, and you can rewind. This is where I want to go into. All right, so just swipe to the left, and now you see how you can use Smart Speed to shorten the silences. You can also do a voice boost, and let's say she was doing an interview, and the interview, maybe one voice was a little louder or lower than the other. You can do voice boost, but then you also can do what's called pod fasting, where you can speed up the time that it takes for you to listen to podcasts. You can do 2 times, 3 times, even though I think that's a little too fast. I really like 1 time myself, but then I can make that custom for this podcast, and I also can put on a sleep timer. Now that's something that I would make use of simply because a lot of times my podcasts lull me off to sleep. And so, hey, I just want to say hello to my friend Larry Snow. He's here. He's saying hi to Tish there, but he said good morning earlier. And also, speaking of podcasters, here's our friend Aunt Capone. He's got a great podcast on Anchor. And then Tish is giving me another hashtag, pod fasting. And actually, I did an episode about podcast fasting and what people are doing and why it's becoming such a phenomenon. So if you're thinking, it takes too long to listen to a podcast, I just showed you if you're using the Overcast app. And even if you're on Android, there's other apps that give you that ability to scrub through and listen at double speed or 1.5 speed. I wouldn't go up as high as 3 times speed unless I was literally looking for a point in a show and I wasn't sure. Then I may use that feature just, temporarily. But You don't want your podcast to sound like a chipmunk, right? You want to have that soothing, dulcet tone in your earbuds while you're on the treadmill or while you're doing laundry, right? So guys, with that, I really had to make this a quick do-over, and I thank you so much. Now, I want to let you know, if you ever want to get in touch with me, there's 2 ways that you can do that. And if you want to leave me an email, you want to send me an email, you will go to Eileen/contact, Eileen.link/contact. So I'm multitasking here, and I said that wrong. So let me say it again. Eileen.link/contact. That's how you leave me a email. Now, if you want to send me a voicemail, which may end up you being featured on my podcast, then you would go to Eileen.link/voicemail. And that's ILEANE. And I thank you so much for coming today. And I will see you in the next video. I do live streams here on every weekend. Today was an unusual case, but I wanted to get your day started off right, knowing why you should listen to podcasts. And with that said, have a happy Monday. Peace.